Kevin Wheeler, Global Learning Resources. You're talking about the future in HR. Tell us all about it.
Okay, well, it's HR is probably the last field in the corporate world to really make any significant change, but the changes are going to be significant.
What are the changes?
There'll be many of them, but let's just, I think maybe the better way to talk about the changes in HR would be to talk about some of the things that are causing the change to happen. Mm-hmm. And then we can say, what does that mean for HR? But one of the major trends that's going on is this whole focus on collaboration and sharing of information. You know, we've lived pretty much our whole lives, most of us as adults, in a world where people worked alone, individually. That was what we held as the most important thing. When we were in school, we probably had to write papers alone and do most of our work as individuals at home alone. Today, the expectations are completely different. And kids are asked to collaborate, to share, to work in groups, to do group projects. At home at night, they're on the Facebook or the internet sharing and discussing their ideas with their friends or using the telephone to do that. So the activities of people today in school are collective. Mm-hmm. And our activities were individualistic, which means that people are going to have different expectations, already are having different expectations when they come into work. And the working style that I was used to and that I'm comfortable in is a working style that younger people are not comfortable doing, which means that certain things in HR are going to have to change. And we can talk a little more in a minute about that. The second thing that's going on is this whole idea of more freedom and choice. And, you know, our generation, again, most of us who are adults, grew up in an era when pretty much everything was controlled by somebody. The government or an individual, for example, the editor of a newspaper, controlled what was in the newspaper. The editor of the television programs controlled what television programs you watched and when you watched them. And you had no choice but to tune in at 6 o'clock for this show, because if you didn't, you could never see that show. With the advent of things like recording and the advent of the internet, the choices have just exploded. So you can choose what you read, where you get your news, what language you get your news in. You're now in control, as opposed to somebody else being in control. So there's a real sense of control and authority and power in people that our generation didn't have. So we work together and we have a lot of freedom and choice. And if you look at the workplace, most of us have neither of those things in our workplaces. We're told when to be here, what to do, how to do it. We have more bosses than we probably need. So these are the things that HR is going to have to look at and change if they want to see recruitment continue to be effective and if they want a really effective workforce. So those are just
What kind of practical advice can you give?
I would say the most practical advice for HR is to look at your policies, to change them, to begin to modify those policies, to allow and encourage more collective behavior, more group action, more sharing across divisions and parts of the company, that you begin to really understand that people have many choices and they might choose to leave your organization or go other places. So how do you give people more opportunity within your own company? I'll give a little example. Most organizations, if you're, let's say, in the accounting department, it would be almost impossible for you to move to the human resources department, because we'd say your education you don't know anything about accounting, or you don't know anything about HR, so how can you move there? A smart company will provide a way for a person to make a move to that function if they're a good person, because you want to keep that person, and the people are expecting to have that choice. So they will find a company somewhere that will accept them in that new role if you don't. And so, you have to really be aware of these trends that are going on and then make changes within the HR group to adapt to those things. Many companies ban the use of things like Facebook or Twitter. And yet we all know that the people
Because they don't know how to deal with it.
They don't know how to deal with it, so it's out of fear. And I think that maybe one of the most important things that HR can do is get over your fear and start to really figure out how do we really make this so it is okay to use it. What are the rules that we want to put around this? And you can ask the employees themselves to come up with those rules, to use the collective behavior of the group and say, what do you think the rules should be? And you can say, we made these rules, not I made these rules. So it's a matter of how you present information, how you make those decisions, and get the employees more involved in what you're doing.
Your session is planned in the afternoon. I'm wondering, how are you organizing or doing this session? Together?
No, I'm not, but because I think the format that we have here isn't really conducive for that. But I have been doing many, many unconferences where all I do is spark conversation, and then everyone starts to contribute and participate. And my own prediction for conferences is these will not exist in a few years, that all conferences will be what is sort of being called unconferences, where people are really just engaged in thoughtful discussion. And maybe somebody sparks the conversation or has an initial comment or idea, but then after that, it just goes wherever it wants to go. So I think this, again, is a 20th century format.
I hope it will be the case in the afternoon. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.